no, there are no straight lines. So for me, there was not a huge amount of like long-term planning. At a certain point, I felt like I needed a long-term plan, but then what I also found is that any long-term plan immediately hits the ugly truth of reality and then becomes a joke. And so for me, I think very carefully about what's next.
Hello, my name is Delilah Guerra, and this is my third Drive project for my Psychology 460 class. For this project, I kind of wanted to do a crash course review of what we learned from David Pink's book, Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. So, let's get started. Before we get into the heart of Pink's book, we need to know what motivation exactly is. The APA Dictionary of Psychology states that motivation is the driving force that gives purpose or direction to behavior and operates in humans at a conscious or unconscious level. Motivation can look like anything. For example, my motivation for going to school is the support I have from my husband, as well as the future outcome of me becoming a special education teacher. Motivation can also be tangible, such as a reward. Think of the puzzle experiment that American psychologist Harry Harlow used with monkeys, which is also what Pink's book kicks off with. Harlow and his team placed mechanical puzzles inside the monkeys' cages to get them ready for another experiment that would take place 2 weeks later. However, Harlow discovered that the monkeys began to attempt to solve the puzzle and had a sense of determination and enjoyment of trying to solve it without the use of a reward, such as food. It was then that Harlow created another model of motivation, intrinsic reward. This brings us to our next important type of motivation, intrinsic and extrinsic. The APA Dictionary of Psychology defines intrinsic motivation as an incentive to engage in a specific activity that derives from pleasure in the activity itself. Intrinsic motivation is the motivation that comes from within. You're doing something out of the kindness of your heart. You do it because you genuinely enjoy doing the task given to you. From Pink's eyes, this would make you a type I person. Don't worry, we'll get into the details of that later. Moving on, extrinsic motivation is the behavior one has when driven by a prize or reward that is tangible. Some quick examples of extrinsic motivation include doing household chores as a kid because your parents promised money or ice cream as a reward, doing homework because the teacher said if everyone turned it in, there would be a pizza party. Although Pink argues that too much of a reward can diminish the motivation of a person, it is important to note that extrinsic motivation isn't inherently a bad thing, because it can give that certain push to someone who maybe isn't motivated to do the task. However, the rewards are usually only used for short-term goals. For example, in the classroom I work in, we use goldfish and Cheez-It crackers as a way to motivate the students to do their classwork. Some days we have to change the reward to an item that we know the student wants, such as an iPad or recess time, or picking a math song to listen to for the day. Pink explains that type X behavior is fueled by extrinsic desires, such as a prize or reward, and focuses more on the external rewards that comes from completing the activity. Type I behavior is fueled more by intrinsic desires as opposed to extrinsic desires like type X. Pink explains that type I behavior is made, not born, and can promote a more positive physical and mental well-being. The earliest operating system, coined Motivation 1.0, was the biological operating system. Think of a human's biological instinct. This includes food, shelter, water, and sex. We are just trying to survive as good as we can. As humans began to form more complex societies, and we had to start actually paying for things in the world, Motivation 2.0 was born. This drive was simple: to seek reward and avoid punishment. This brings us to the final part of this book, Motivation 3.0. Motivation 3.0 consists of 3 elements of intrinsic motivation: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Pink argues that humans are naturally born to be self-driven. Think of a toddler who is always curious about what is around them. Autonomy refers to our desire to lead our own life. Mastery is a human's natural desire to get better at something. People are naturally going to want to get better at certain skills and get recognized for their ability to do these skills. Finally, purpose is our desire to want to help others. People with purpose are motivated to not only help others, but to achieve something greater or tackle complex problems. To wrap up this video, I'm going to leave you with something Daniel Pink himself said that really struck with me. I wanted to thank you guys for watching this far, and see you in the next one.
You do. And I think this process of looking inward and treating ourselves with some kindness, expressing outward and disclosing the regret as a way to make sense of it, and then moving forward by taking a step back and extracting a lesson is relatively simple to do and allows us to take these regrets and not be scared of them and not let them debilitate us, but to enlist them as forces for moving forward.